I don't know how you pronounce his name. Tim Walz. Walz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I did some research on Tim Walz, and today I'm going to be letting you know exactly what I found out. So first, we're going to be starting with his history, then we're going to get into some of the things he's actually done, and then we're going to be talking about exactly what everyone's talking about today, the trending topics, what the media is saying about Tim Walz, and what social media is also saying about Tim Walz. We're going to start by digging into his history a little bit, and I know there's been some concern about stolen valor. So before we do that, before we dig into his history a little bit, we're not going to dig into my history, but I'm going to briefly show you exactly why I'm qualified to even speak on this topic. In the event this video goes viral and that people start talking about it and people want to get in the comments and say odd, weird things, and how does this guy know what he's talking about, and what is he saying? Why does he have that opinion? I'll just start by saying that's why. That's why. Okay. All right. I did my time, and I'm pretty qualified by any account. NCO, the United States Army. So now we get that out of the way when we get into Tim Walz, because I want to know about this stolen valor topic. So let's start by looking at his history. Couple things I was able to find out, and receipts. If there's receipts necessary, they're gonna be posted on the screen right here. So say something, I'm gonna back it up with the receipts. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Apparently, Tim Walz was part of the Nebraska/Minnesota National Guard for 24 years. That's a long ass time to be in the National Guard. So clearly, this guy, like, he was a lifer. Like, he knew from the beginning. That's what I would say. That's what my opinion would be. He knew from the beginning, or at some point during his career, he decided that he was going to be doing this for a long time. He's going to make a career out of it and probably go on to do what he's doing today, which is politics. Typically, people that don't spend that long in the military, not guys like this, to then come out and not have some other aspirations. So clearly that's what that was. 11 Bravo, he was infantryman, started out as infantryman, so he probably was stupid. That's pretty much what that means. If he started out as an infantryman and then he switched to artillery apparently at some point during his career, that's what I was able to find out, or that's what this says here. That means he's dumb. He didn't score very high on his ASVAB. That's what I would assume from that information. Moving on. In 2014, Tim Walz made the decision to leave the Guard as he was considering running for Congress. At the same time, there was the Iraq deployment rumors going around. During this time, he was promoted to Command Sergeant Major, but he never completed the coursework, so he ended up retiring as a Master Sergeant. On the Harris campaign site, he is described as a Master Sergeant, but in his governor's page bio, he's referred to as Command Sergeant Major. That in and of itself is stolen valor, ladies and gentlemen. We could just start there. You're claiming to have attained a rank that you have not attained, and that's stolen valor. 2004 is when he decided to leave the Guard and, I guess, like I said, get into politics and like try to expand out, try to branch out, right? You can go into his governance page and you can see him referring to himself as Command Sergeant Major, a rank that he did not attain. He retired 2004, 2005, before his battalion was deployed to Iraq. All right, so he spoke to his soldiers during that time, and he was torn between his loyalty to his fellow troops and his desire to move on with his life. At the time, there were vague expectations that the unit might deploy, but the actual orders would actually come months later. So how this goes is you're in the military, you hear things, you hear the unit's going to deploy, you don't know. And if you're a lower enlisted, you really don't know until really the orders are cut. He's telling his soldiers that, he was torn between his loyalty to them and, wanting to move on and his higher aspirations to do what he's doing now today. The reality is he was a wash at that point anyway. Like, bro, you did over 20 years in the military. You should just get out. And whatever they have to say about him, like, deciding to get out and, like, as if he's, like, dodging this deployment, right? He already did 20 years. All right, people? So That's just my opinion on that. I think, yeah, it looks like he's dodging the deployment, but the reality is he's a wash at that point. He's not. It's not like he's going into combat anyway. He wouldn't have gone into combat anyway. He's master sergeant. He was a master sergeant, right? He was a master sergeant, so he's not going into combat. All right. I'm not going to validate his stolen valor, so I'm going to refer to him as the master sergeant. When I start talking like that, it's because I'm not going to validate the goofy nonsense. So he retired as a master sergeant. Here's where we get deeper into the stolen valor, though, because in 2018, Walz is quoted as saying, "We can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place those weapons are at." And he later said that he misspoke and he acknowledged the fact that he never went into war. So apparently he makes this comment as he's campaigning to take away your gun rights. He wants to take this stuff away from us. He's talking about he don't want, these weapons that he carried in war to be, they should just stay in war, right? Problem with that is now we can flash back to 2004, 2005, and when he got out of the military, he told his soldiers that he wanted to move on. He had all these other aspirations. Now that comes into question. We flash forward to more recent times, and Walz is saying that he was in war. Bro, you weren't in war. You weren't in the command sergeant major. You actually dipped out right before anything could pop off. The actual CSM calls him a sellout in 2018 in response to probably Walz talking all of this hot stuff about trying to take people's weapons away and keeping weapons of war in places of war. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff, and the rabbit hole goes deeper. He was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving in Nebraska while he was working as a teacher. So he's teaching your kids and driving drunk. The troopers said to have saw him driving at a high rate of speed, blocked him at about 100 miles per hour in the 50 mile per hour zone. So, he's getting loose, getting behind the wheel. Apparently failing a field sobriety test and transported to jail at the time. So this is just a little background. And like I said, I just want to give you a little background. So to wrap up my opinion on the first segment of this video, the history of Tim Walz, I think that he probably served honorably. He probably did have to consider when he was getting out if he was going to be deployed overseas or if he was going to try to move on with other aspirations in his career. That being said, he did, and he is doing still to this day, apparently, some things that are most certainly stolen valor, like claiming to be a higher rank than he actually is, which is that's mild. But going out and trying to take people's guns and saying you want to take the weapons that you used in war and keep them in places of war when you were never even in war is wild. And it's just really insane to me. And especially when I first started hearing about Tim Walz, I thought that maybe he would have been a commissioned officer, right? Because that's the type of attitude of a person like this, right? But the fact that he's even will be an NCO with this type of attitude is just wild to me. It doesn't make sense, but hey. But moving on into the actual things that he did, not some of the things that he said or pretend to have done. I think this is important things to look at as far as his history goes, because he's the governor of Minnesota and he has held political office, so it's important to look at his track record. He has a track record, right? So it's real simple and it's real easy to just go ahead and figure out some of the things that he's put his pen to. Apparently in 2023, he signed an education law that included a mandate for schools to provide free menstrual supplies to students grades 4 through 12. That mandate is drawing attention as the Trump campaign seeks to criticize Walz for the law, claiming it requires districts to supply feminine hygiene products to both male and female students, because apparently both male and female students can menstruate. On social media, the hashtag, and I'm going to put it on screen, I'm not even going to say that because now we're getting into territory where YouTube might start trying to clock this video because I'm talking about this weird stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna put this on the weird stuff on the screen. So that was the day that was a few days ago. That was actually the day that Walz was named as the VP pick for Kamala. But I want to go back further, right? Because, like I said, I want to look at his track record. I want to look at some of the things that he's actually done. So this is real simple. I'm going to go on Google. I'm going to type in Tim Walz signs, and I'm going to see some of the things that he's put his pen to. Okay, so most of what I'm seeing already popping up is just going to be the most recent stuff that has to do with that weird stuff that I'm putting on the screen. I'll put that on the screen again. I'm not going to dig into these articles any deeper because it's pretty clear what's going on with that. But I'm trying to just look a little bit further back. My gosh, yo, lady, these glasses is not it for you. I'm gonna tell you right now that just by skimming through the article and seeing how it's written, this article is called "Here's What Tim Walz Has Done as Governor of Minnesota," and it's by the Minnesota Reformer. This seems incredibly biased, but we'll look at it anyway and see what they have to say. Because if he's actually signing things, like I said, that'll just show a track record that's undeniable, because that's in black and white. It's signed. So one of the first bills he signed was the Protect Reproductive Options Act, guaranteeing that every individual has a fundamental right to make autonomous decisions about the individual's own reproductive health. And that just sounds like pro-choice to me. That sounds like a pro-choice bill. Yeah, Roe v. Wade, pro-choice. When did he become governor of Minnesota? And why is he hugging these people's kids? Like, wow, that's weird, man. I ain't never seen little kids so happy to see, like, maybe they think he's like Santa Claus or something. I'm serious. I don't get it. Like, why? But those kids don't even look hungry. Those kids don't look hungry. For context, this is after he provided free lunch to the kids and some snacks. He showed up to school and
it was a bill.
A free lunch bill. Okay, so I didn't read that far, but he passed a bill for kids. Listen, people. All I'm saying is if some politicians show up to my school, I don't care what bill they're passing. I'm not hugging them. I just think that's weird. But let's keep going. So far, he's worked to sign things regarding abortion, and now we're going to get into education. This is apparently his most popular bill. Apparently it is, because the kids love him. This has got to be his most popular bill. Free school breakfast and lunch to all kids at all eligible schools, regardless of income. That's good. Like, that should be a bill that should be national. Like, that should be, like, Congress should pass that so that no kid in America, like, because it's 2024, we should not have starving children, especially not in this country. It's supposed to be the greatest country in the world, right? So why we can't feed all the children? Why Tim Walz got to do it in just Minnesota? Just saying. I don't like and I don't agree with some of the gender, male, female. I'm gonna put tampons in your boys' bathrooms. I don't agree with some of that stuff. But this is cool. Free college tuition for University of Minnesota and Minnesota State. So okay, so he's done a few good things for education. I would say those are some good things for Minnesota for education. But apparently it's too little too late, right? Because it's schools ranking for education, U.S. education quality, from 2015 to 2014. It dropped from 6th overall to 19th overall. So, they're saying that, this could take years to yield results. But what I think is just too little too late. And people try to come in and they think they can flip a light switch on some of these issues, and it's just not how it works. And he was one of these governors that was keeping schools closed during COVID times. That did a lot of damage to children and their development, their learning, their ability to continue their education. They were forced to stay home. For a lot of children, you have to think that even though you never know where you might have been as an adult during these times, but children during these times could have been at the crucial developmental stages where they really needed that, and they just completely missed out on it. And Tim Walz, like I said, was one of these guys that was gonna make sure that he kept those schools closed as long as possible. Paid sick leave, infrastructure packages, wages. I mean, this is all a lot of government assistance stuff. There's a lot of government assistance stuff, and it's written in the way that it is written in these articles, and they say, oh, it's for everybody, and it's for people with, incomes that are below this amount, and but anybody, and it's for everybody. And it sounds like these things are some stuff that just applies across the board, but in reality, it's a lot of government assistance. Yeah, it's government assistance. And I'm willing to bet 100% that as I scroll down this article, he's going to double down, because now he's going to get into this weird environmental stuff too. And honestly, it's really just starting to paint the picture. Healthcare, let me guess. You want to give free healthcare? Yes, you want to expand. He signed a bill to expand public health insurance access to undocumented peoples. So he's going to take your tax dollars. He's going to use that for healthcare for undocumented peoples. And of course, Walz is trying to legalize the ganj. And I think it's just pandering. It's just pandering to their voter base, because reality is they try to flip switches. So why don't they flip that switch? That's an easy one for them. But it is what it is. But in reality, honestly, I've seen enough. He's signed a lot of stuff. He's done a lot. Most of it, I'm gonna tell you. And then especially when it comes to stuff like this, like gun control, that really is sparking up a lot of the debate and the issues and topics that we're seeing, is not good, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion. If I had to take a guess, I'd say he's maybe like 80-20. Some of the things he does for education and for children, that's all fine and dandy, even though, like I said, it is government assistance. But for the people who rely on it, that's good, and hopefully they are able to use that to change their lives. But the reality is that guys like Tim Walz do and sign these types of things is not for empowerment. It's to keep you trapped and for control. It's the truth. Yeah, follow all that up with housing, because you can expand affordable housing. You're going to prevent homelessness, expand home ownership opportunities, and provide rental assistance to thousands of households. And that sounds fine and dandy until you realize that maybe where some of that money is going. But I'm not gonna have any opinions about where that particular money might be going. But I do wanna circle back to healthcare, because the healthcare money was going to undocumented peoples, we'll call them. Well, the healthcare money was going to undocumented peoples, so I can only assume that some of this money might be going to undocumented peoples as well. That's some of the stuff that he's actually done. People want to get riled up about Tim Walz and the controversies that are in the media right now, which we're going to get into next. I want to see the feed right now. But while people are getting very distracted about what's popular and trending in the media right now, before we get into that and before we take a look at that, it's good to be informed by a little bit of the history. So that's why I wanted to take y'all through the history. I wanted to take y'all through some of what he actually did and some of the bills and things that he's actually signed, before we talk about what's happening today. So this is one of the things that's trending today. Hodge twins posted this. Kamala's a VP. Tim Walz sent his tyrannical agents into Minnesota neighborhoods to shoot citizens with paintball guns during the lockdowns. And apparently, I saw this earlier and I didn't know if it was actually a thing, but let's see.
They just keep coming.
Go inside! Get inside! Get inside!
Oh.
Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
All right, well, I saw people posting that earlier today, and I didn't know if it was actually real. I didn't know what the video was, or people can confirm that that's actually his police regime, we'll say that, doing that in Minnesota. But these things come full circle when you're still looking at these candidates, you're looking at these VP picks, all this stuff is going to start coming out. And, you know, the crazy thing to me is that people have known this stuff all along, and he's been governor, and there's other governors, there's other politicians as well that there's plenty of different stories, and you can kind of paint a picture of these guys in a similar fashion to how I've done in this video. We won't talk about it, and we're not talking about it. No one's outraged, and it's not going to be trending, and it's not going to be popular until it's really just almost too late. Because look at this. These are the people that are potentially going to be running our country. But if it's not about topics I cover in this video or in other videos, then just don't talk to me.